Hello, hello there. Hello, wonderful people. Very good day to you all. It's my privilege to come your way today again on Singles Alive Fellowship, a platform that gives us the opportunity to look at the life of the single vis-a-vis the life we are all created to live. How do I look and at myself as a single, and how do I live as a single? These are very important questions that everyone needs to keep asking himself. Who is still a single? A question that you need to ask someone that you have around you who is a single. How do you look at yourself as a single? And why would you consider yourself a single and not live the life of a single? Okay. Um, on this discussion today, we're going to be making sure that we look at why it's difficult for people who are singles to look at themselves as singles and live a single life without attachment. This is very important. Yeah. Um, this is so important because we found out that one of the major challenges of singlehood is that every time people get into attachments as singles without a firm foundation, it always leads to heartbreak. And a lot of the times people carry this heartbreak into a lifelong relationship. So you see someone who comes in to a relationship that ordinarily should be beautiful and enjoyed, but because of the baggage the person is carrying, that relationship becomes not just turbulent but becomes toxic. And all of that is because of an emotional life that was not properly managed, an emotional life that has been distorted, an emotional life that had been badly injured. So a lot of people come into a relationship terribly injured with injuries. So they are nursing wounds and they are coming into a relationship. They have a tormenting experience and they're coming into another relationship. And when they come into that relationship, the totality of their person shows in that relationship. Their responses in that relationship is as a result of who they are that they brought into the relationship. It's important that we know that it does not matter how spiritually strong or powerful that you are. The man who is standing with you at the altar, whatever makeup he has, is what he's bringing into that relationship. The young girl who is coming with you to the altar, as she's walking down, whatever makeup, whatever has been built into her, is what she's bringing into that relationship. And when we understand this, then you understand that even though the clergy will bring you together and pray for you and all of that, it does not change the negative experiences that are inherently living inside you, that you're living with. It doesn't change the person that you have, by the reason of your experiences, become. No, it doesn't change that. But rather, what it does is that it gives you a feeling that you're having a new relationship, whereas the relationship is already foundationally problematic because of the fact that you you're coming without dealing with the inner person. So the concept of having coming to a relationship with baggages can actually be taken care of. It can be taken care of if we go back to the reason for which people go through all kinds of things and heartbreaks, which we saw the last time we were on this platform. We saw that the mother of literally all heartbreaks, emotional heartbreaks in relationship, is actually emotional attachment. Mm. And this emotional attachment comes subtly. Why does it happen? I'll tell you this. Whether you know it or not, and whether you like it or not, every human being was created for emotional connection. What that means is that we were created to connect. That is to say, no human being was created to function and to live independently. So, every human being that came into this planet Earth actually came in to live with other humans. So even in the beginning, God looked at Adam when it was Adam alone in the garden. And God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make him a helper." Now, so God didn't want man to be alone. It means that the assignment that God has prepared for man, man needed company in order to be able to execute those assignments. So, emotional attachment or connection, rather, is a natural design of God for humanity. Emotional connection, therefore, is the bond we form with people who matter so much to us. I want to repeat that. Emotional connections are the bonds we are designed to form with the people who matter so much to us. People who matter like family, like friends, like colleagues, like partners, even in our communities. So that is emotional connection. This connection is so very important because God, in creating man, created man to live in a community. And He made it such that every one of us who is human, who is living, is actually designed to live with God, giving Him His right community. That is to say, that God uses the right people according to His design to envelop you, to cover you, to protect you, to give you safety, and to give you a life worth living. So, emotional connection is God's design. So, from childhood, you find that every human is connected because we are wired for this. You're connected first with your parents, and then you're connected with your friends in school and all of that. And then you're connected with a higher level of friendship, perhaps friends in church. And then you're connected with friends in the place of work at different levels. So, emotional connection is not something that is out of the usual. It is something that God designed us, the natural life that we are supposed to live. So, talking about emotional connection, um, I want to go straight into the discussion because from last week I did promise that today we're going to be looking at emotional attachment and why it is difficult for people to live without being emotionally attached to others. And all of this is because of the fact that the concept or the problem of emotional attachment is affecting literally everyone who gets involved in it. As a matter of fact, a friend said to me that it is impossible for anyone not to get emotionally attached. And then he said, if it is possible, how possible is it? Now, so in saying it is impossible, it became something that is worth talking about here. And so I don't know who is listening to me or who is connecting here today. My question would be, is it impossible for humans to live without getting emotional attachment? And we started from last week, and some people felt it's possible to live without. And how possible can that be? Why is it that it's difficult? From last week, we saw people giving reasons like and people find it difficult because of the need to feel among. So people think that, oh, we need to be like others, and so if others have to live with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a bestie, you want to join to be like every other person, and so many of those reasons. But someone said that it is impossible, and that became a troubling question. It is impossible for any man to live without emotional attachment. Mm. So I would like us to really look at this, if we can. If not, I'll just go straight on to look at this subject matter, like I already promised, and try to clear the air, looking at certain of these things from scriptures. Okay, and first and foremost, I want to say that the social connections, like I already said, we're talking about it today because one, it is a natural design of God. Okay, it's a natural design of God. It helps us to share love, share joy, and you know, get through things with people that we connect with, get through hard times. That's a natural design of God. Number two is that healthy connection gives us strength and comfort. Healthy connections gives us strength and comfort. It means that through healthy connection, we are strengthened and comforted because nobody has it all by himself. No matter how wealthy you are, no matter how blessed you are, no matter how anointed you are, there is something that belongs to someone that you need in life. Okay, okay, and thirdly, what God designed is not attachment. It's not attachment. It is connection. It is caring deeply while also staying grounded in yourself. You have a good dose of your person and your values and your own well-being. Okay, that is what this is all about. Now, when you fail to have a good dose of self-esteem, self-value, self-worth, uh, you're going to find yourself attaching yourself to people, and your peace, your joy, your happiness, you're going to be outsourcing to someone who probably may not really care about you. So today I want us to look at um, emotional attachment. Okay, since we have found out that we are created for connections, Why is it that it is impossible? Someone said it is impossible. And that kind of got me really thinking. It is impossible to live this life without being emotionally attached to someone. So, why is it difficult? From last week, I did mention that it is difficult for us to get to live an emotional, stable life without being attached to someone because, first and foremost, of identity crisis, which is what I just said. Identity crisis. A failure to understand your person, a failure to know who you are, a failure to know what you represent, a failure to know what your values are, a failure to know what you are worth is a major problem. That's the reason why people get out in relationship and they are seeking validation. So you become who your friends say that you are. You become who the society says that you are because you do not have a good knowledge of who you are, what your values are, what your wants, and all of that. And that is the foundational problem. And a lot of this problem of identity stems from poor upbringing. It stems from poor upbringing. I remember I discussed here sometime, and I was talking about the sons of Issachar. No, the Rechabites, rather. The Rechabites. The Rechabites were a generation where it was like a family. And these people had a mindset. They were raised up by their grandfathers and they were taught not to take wine. And these people, by the reason of the way who they were told they were, an understanding of who they were, their values, their wants, withstood the prophet Jeremiah when the prophet took them into the temple and offered them alcohol and said, guys, come. Here, I'm a prophet. Hear the word of the Lord. The Lord says you should take alcohol. And the young men said, sorry, sir. By the reason of the knowledge of who we are the Rechabites. We don't do alcohol. And he said, why? This is from the Lord. He said, no. Our forefathers taught us that when we step out, we don't do alcohol. We focus on building our farms, harvesting our crops, building our homes, taking care of our children. We don't do alcohol. That's a good dose of a knowledge of who you are. And they stood their grounds because of that. They were unshaken, even in the face of God, as it were, because they had God's representative, like Jeremiah the prophet, standing before them and telling them, this is what God will want you to do. But they said, no, we can't do it. He said, yeah, but it's God that is asking you to. They said, no, but we can't do it. Why? Because our fathers, this is our identity. A person who has a good dose of his identity is not swayed very easily. So if you're going to overcome the problem of emotional attachment, the very first thing is that you must know who you are. Must know who you are. Must know who you are. But the truth is that even though we are created for connections, the society that we live in has shifted the entire dynamics of the human existence. So the society we live in has made emotional attachment a fundamental means of survival. That is to say, if you're not emotionally attached to another, you're not likely to do well. And that's a major problem. So if you're going to live an emotionally balanced life, you have to contend with this misrepresentation of the society. The society made it such that you need emotional attachment as a fundamental survival mechanism. It means that you have to entrust others with your well-being. It means that you have to literally take your life and put it in the hands of another, which is where the problem is. So it brings you to a point where you hear things like, oh, I can't live without you. Oh, you complete me. Oh, if you leave me, my life is over. Things like that. So you find that what you have done is that you have taken your life subtly. You have taken your peace. You have taken your what? Your joy. And you have put it on another person. Subtly. If he leaves me, I'm finished. This is the only opportunity I have. If it doesn't come my way, if it doesn't love me, no other person can. Who said? Now, so what this does is that it makes men that you attach yourself to become your lifeline instead of being a blessing. I don't know if you get that. So what that means is that the people that come into your life should actually come into your life to be a blessing or to bring a blessing, not to be your lifeline. This is so because when you take your emotional well-being and you put it on another, what you have done is that you have taken God's job and you have put it on a human. Whereas the truth is that no human can carry the weight of another human's emotional satisfaction. No human can carry that. So, and this is the problems of emotional attachment. When you get attached to someone, what you're saying, in essence, is that my life comes from this person. So you need to understand emotional attachment as this, which is the reason why it leaves people terribly broken-hearted. Think of emotional attachment as like a plant that is attached to the soil. Think of emotional attachment as a fish that is in water. The only thing that will take away the life of the fish is if you bring the fish out of water. That's where the fish has a problem. Leave the fish in water, it's doing well. Why? Because the life of the fish came from waters. Take the tree, pull it or uproot it from the roots out of the soil. That tree can last another day or two and then it withers. Why? It has been detached or disconnected from its source of life. So attachment connotes that connection with your source of life, which is the reason why people get terribly hurt and heartbroken when they get emotionally disappointed. People get terribly heartbroken. Why? Because they attached their lives to the life of another. Whereas your life is not supposed to be attached to the life of another. That is to say that as plants came out of the soil and exists as long as it's rooted in the soil, that is exactly how man came out of God and exists as long as man is connected to God. Please hear me. For the tree, the branches and all of the leaves and all of that could actually be representing friends and family and colleagues that beautify the environment and make life interesting. But note this, you can actually chop off all of the branches, and that same tree, as long as it's still rooted in the soil, begins to grow fresh branches, fresh leaves, and is still alive. But when you pull it out of the soil, which is the source of life, its source of life, when you pull it out of the soil, it dies within days. So man was designed to be attached to God, but connected to men. What that means is that the only attachment that you are permitted to have is attachment to God, who is your source of life. The only attachment you're supposed to have is the attachment that you have to God, who is your source of life. Other people around you, the humans around you, can actually form people that you connect with, people that you interact with, people that you relate with. And that's very good. But hear me, that's why it's important that you understand that at different times and seasons of your life, different people will come in, fulfill their assignment, and live your life. Now, when you get emotionally attached to people that you shouldn't get attached to, what happens is that you have given them the right, you have sourced your joy, and you have given them the right to mess up your peace, mess up your joy, mess up your life completely. Now, so with this in mind, the question is how? What is responsible? Why is it difficult for people to live their lives without emotional attachment? Why? So last week we identified first and foremost identity crisis as number one reason. Today I'm going to talk about the next two reasons, and perhaps this is going to help someone. The second reason for which it's difficult for people to live without being emotionally attached is that people have misunderstood love, a misunderstanding of love, a misunderstanding of love. This is very important. By this, I mean that the society that you and I live in has conditioned you and conditioned me to view love and attachment as the same thing. That's wrong. That's wrong. Love and attachment are not the same thing. When you have a healthy love relationship, number one is a healthy love relationship. A healthy love relationship works intentionally for the well-being of the other person, independent of yourself. So it means that a healthy love relationship thinks of the well-being. How am I going to better the lot of this person? How am I going to make input into this person's life, and this person will get better than he or she was when I met them? What am I going to do? What am I imputing? What am I bringing into this person's life? If what I'm bringing into a person's life is taking the person down and making them less of who they were or who they are or who they ought to be, then that cannot be considered to be love. That when you love genuinely, when you find genuine love, what it brings is you are in a relationship and there is this freedom you have. You have peace. And there is genuine connection without attachment. You can relate freely. You're not in bondage. There's no anxiety. There's no desperation for anything. Because you are in a genuine love relationship, a healthy love relationship. It's not the same thing as emotional attachment. Emotional attachment, which is what the society has mistaken love to be, healthy love relationship to be, is the effort we make at different times and stages of life to cling to others. So you see this person, you zero in on this person, and this person becomes your everything. You think of talking, it's this person. You think of going out, it's this person. You think of interaction, it's one person. And you only do that because you need them to feel a void that exists in your life, or to give you a sense of secured identity. Also, because you have this person, you feel good. Oh, because you have this person, then at least I'm sure I'm married. I have someone I can call my own. So what that does is that it brings people, or it brings you into a relationship where the effort is that there is a void, and this is important. There is a void you are struggling to fill. There is a gap in your life that you're looking for who will fill. Something went wrong somewhere. And because you've not been able to identify it and deal with that, you are looking for who will fill that void. A lot of the times it's a childhood experience. Maybe you lacked love as a child. And so growing up, you never knew love. And then you come to a point where you have the right to make a choice and you're looking for who will love you. It's a misunderstanding of love. Love is not emotional attachment. It's not. The result of emotional attachment is that it brings you to a point where you are always in fear of losses, losing that person. You fear, if I lose this person, what happens? So you live a life of anxiety. And this type of anxiety drives you into living a possessive life. This person is my own. You put things in place. You make efforts that can cost you anything just to be possessive. You want to possess everything. Everything you have to do. You want to do it in order to possess this. And unfortunately, what it does is that it makes you compromise your person, compromise your values, compromise your standard, compromise your principles. You are not respected. You cannot find respect in such quarters. That's emotional attachment. And that's what it does. Because it drives you to a point where you start feeling, oh no, I can't let this person go. Okay? I can if I it could mean if I'm not attached, it could mean I am not uncaring, or I am uncaring or unloving, or I'm not showing that I have feelings. And so you are bound and connected to something that you can't extricate yourself from. Whereas letting go of attachment actually means loving without the fear of losing control. Yeah. You love without, you're loving everyone. And yeah, you come into my life. I'm not afraid of losing you because my life is not tied to you. That's number two. Number two is a misunderstanding of love makes people enter into relationship and they are getting emotionally attached, whereas they are thinking they are in a love relationship. No, that's not healthy love relationship. You're misunderstanding love completely. Okay. And number three, which is where we will now take questions after this, is emotional attachment is difficult for people to escape from. Why? Because of a misappropriation of love, or better still, because of a misapplication of love in their lives. I will explain. I earlier said that man was designed to live love. Man was designed to live love and to live in a love environment. Man was designed to live love and to live in a love environment. What that means is that at every stage of every man's life, there is a particular kind of love that God has designed for that man to be supported with. That is the reason why no human being was born without people around him. No human being is born without people around him. So, at the point of birth, it's either you were born with your mother and other people around you or something. So, there are people. So, every human being, as it were, came into this planet with people surrounding him. That's love. Now, note that when every human being comes in, every human being comes in feeble because you're a child, you're a baby, you're feeble, you are dependent, you are everything, just that you're a bundle of joy. So when people carry a baby, what they look forward to and celebrate is the future that the baby represents. The celebration is not about the present, it's about the future that the baby represents. So what it means is that from the time that you came into this planet called Earth, God designed that you will land in an atmosphere of love. And from that time, you begin to enjoy love. The problem is that because of our lack or the distortion of the human race and the human lifestyle, so many people are born or were born and they did not receive enough love as a child. Please note this. It does not matter how you look at it, everyone is designed to enjoy that love as a child. And denying anyone of that love is creating a gap in that person's life. And really, my heart goes out to a lot of children who are born and abandoned. My heart goes out to a lot of children who are born and denied by their fathers. A lot of my heart goes out. Sometimes the Bible said, I think it's in Isaiah chapter 49, it says, shall a mother forget her suckling child? And God said it's possible. God said it's possible that a mother could actually give birth to a child and forget the child. So many years back, the one city around the east, one very wonderful early morning, as a growing young boy, we're going out. I think it was to get some things. Was it to fetch water or something? And just by the street corner, we saw a carton, and in that carton was a little child crying. And a woman who carried this child for 9 months had the heart to take this child and put the child in a carton and left the child unattended to by the corner of the road. I broke down. And this is the kind of life. Now, so think about it. When that child grows up, that child has been abandoned. That child does not know the mother's love. He does not know the father's love. He does not know siblings' love. He does not know any kind of love whatsoever as a baby, as a child. Now, perhaps a good Samaritan will come and pick up the child, because that was what eventually happened. A good Samaritan comes up and picks up the child. And when the child is picked up, this good Samaritan will take care of the child. But note this good Samaritan, as good as the good Samaritan is or was or may be, that good Samaritan was not prepared, equipped by God to take care of that child, as it were. So what that good Samaritan is going to do is that person is going to reach deep down into his reserves, and bring out the emotion of love to be able to take care of a child he or she did not give birth to. That is not the usual kind of love. So listen to this. One of the things you'll find with such people is that those children will grow up and they are living with a sense of denial. They are living with a gap in their lives. They are living with a void. They are living with a hunger for that love, that family love, that mother's love, that care. They are living with it. And they start looking for it. Now, whether you know it or not, they are going to be hungry for love. And that's the void that they are going to be struggling the rest of their lives, if care is not taken, to fill in. Why? God designed every human to come into this world and fall into a family and enjoy the love of that family. And that is the foundation of life. So you find people, sometimes you even find people who grow up and they are disowned by their father, or their mother leaves them and walks away from their father, and they are only raised by a father who is not, as it were, emotionally equipped to nurse a baby. And the man does everything he can to nurse the child. But the reality is that that child is growing up, and that child, consciously or unconsciously, is living with a huge void of love in his life or her life. Hear me. This is not fairy tales. This is reality. Just praying for that person can't solve that problem. Every human. So there are 4 kinds of love that God designed, that at different seasons of a person's life, the person will have to enjoy it. Number 1 is the family love that I just talked about. Number 2 is the friendship love that is coming up now. Number 3 is the agape love. The agape love, the God kind of love. Number 4 is then the erotic love. These are the kinds of love that God intentionally designed that every human will have to enjoy in their lifetime to be able to live a stable life here on earth. Please, let this be noted that any of these loves that is undelivered, that is not enjoyed to the fullest in the right proportion leaves a gap in the person's emotional well-being in life. It does not matter who you are. It does not matter where you are from. It does not matter how intelligent you think you are. It does not matter what you have achieved or what you have not achieved. As long as you do not have a good dose of family love that gives you that identity we are talking about, where you can come out and you're standing in a society by the reason of the knowledge of who your father is, the reason of the knowledge of who your mother is, the reason of the knowledge of who you are, and the people around you, that you are loved. You are able to walk with your shoulders high and with your head straight. You are able to look at people eyeball to eyeball because you have a good dose of that love. That family love is the foundation of love, is the foundation love that sets every man going and going well. Very vital. Very vital. Very vital. The next is the friendship love. The truth is that no matter how you are loved by your family, and no matter how fundamental and foundational the family love is, you get to a point where, from the fullness of that family love, there is a desire that rises up in you to want to interact with someone who is not a member of your family, to want to get a friend. Because everywhere you go, you connect with people. Mankind was created, was designed for connections. So when you step out and you find someone, there is a natural tendency that certain things in the person, the moment it connects with things in you, there is a desire for connection with such people. That's why, as a young person, you go to school, you meet people, you are attracted to some, and you're not attracted to some others. Some become your friend, and others are not your friend. Why? Because there is something in them that you saw, and you feel that it could be a connection that you can have with them, and you connect with them. And this friendship love is so also very important because it gives you an idea of what society that you were born into looks like outside of what your family has presented to you. It gives you a broader perspective of what life is. It gives you a broader perspective of what love is. And you see this person and you say, this is my best friend. He becomes someone you talk to, becomes someone you want to spend time with, becomes someone you want to play with, becomes someone you want to read with. As young people, you are interacting, but if you're careful to note, most of the times, as young people, you are open-minded in your relationship. You relate with this person, and at a time, if you think this person is not working, you're moving over to the next person. Why? Because there is no attachment. If it's a healthy relationship. But children who do not have a good dose of family love get to points where they feel terribly bad because a friend will not talk to them. That's a very key signal. Because the friend will not talk to them, they feel bad, they get depressed, they feel let alone, they feel rejected, and that could lead them into depression because they didn't have a good dose, and the only one they found is slipping off their fingers. But that's not the way it's designed to be. God designed every human being to grow and enjoy friends, make friends. And you find that friends come in at different times in your life and leave, play their parts and leave. Another set comes in, play their parts and leave. Another set comes in, plays their part and leave. And so life goes on. And so from childhood, Sometimes it's difficult to even count the number of friends you have. Why? You're living freely without attachment. You're living freely without attachment. You just connect with people. And when the purpose of that connection comes to an end, you move on without heartbreaks. And that's what happens to you as a youngster, and then you grow to the age of maturity, to the age of understanding that there is someone called God. The agape kind of love is not a love that your family will give to you. It's not a love that your friends can give to you. It's not a love that you inherit from your gene. It's not a love you enjoy because you're part of this group or you're part of this family. No. It is a love you enjoy because you came to know that there is someone called God, and that this one called God is the one that is sharing his breath with you, and his breath is what is filling your lungs, and you are existing because of him, and there is nothing you can do without him. And this knowledge and consciousness brings you to a point where you say, I want to know this God who so loves me and gave me life and is sustaining me. I want to know him. That decision to know him brings you into enjoying the agape kind of love, the God kind of love. It is the kind of love that is sacrificial. It's the kind of love that God wants every human to experience, and it is experienced intentionally. That means you experience it from a point of knowledge. That is to say, you must know what you are choosing to enjoy, to experience. It's not something you experience because you just met it. No, you must make the decision and say, I want to experience God's love. And God's love is actually a sacrificial kind of love. That's God's love. It's a sacrificial kind of love. This kind of love loves you even when you're not prim and proper. This kind of love looks for you even when you're missing, when you're lost, when you fail it. It doesn't give up on you. That's the kind of love we're talking about. The reason why this is the third dimension of love is that you will not appreciate it if you are a little child. You will not appreciate it as an adolescent if your brain are not developed to know that there is God. It is a love you enjoy when you know that finally all of the beautiful things I see on earth, including me, that is fearfully and wonderfully made, couldn't have been existing by accident, couldn't have been existing by happenstance, couldn't have been existing by the Big Bang Theory. I can only be existing as the works or the workmanship of a master creator who is able to put together everything you see in me and make me who I am. When I come to that mental understanding that nothing else except God could have put this together, that's when I look for who this God is. And when I look for who this God is, I find him, and he lavishly pours out his love on me. That love that is lavishly poured out on you at the point of agape is what you ought to carry into a relationship that should be a lifetime relationship with a man. This is so because You actually cannot express love beyond what you have experienced. I want to repeat that. Let me say that again. You cannot express love beyond the kind of love you have experienced. So, what it means is that if, as a little child, you were denied love, that's an experience. That experience sticks with you. If, as a young person, a little boy, a little girl, you went out and you experienced abandonment amongst friends, and you came to the point of the depression because you tried depending and getting attached to your friends, and all of that hurt you terribly, and that's all you know as love. When you get into a relationship that is ought to be a lifelong relationship, whether you know it or not, what you will give is the kind of love that you know, because it is what you have that you can give. You can never give what you do not have. And this is one of the major reasons why people come into relationships and they are not just broken, they are giving brokenness out in the name of love. So all of the negative experiences in the name of love is what they give out. Imagine a child who was abused. Imagine a child who grew up living defensive life. If he comes into a relationship, it's all of that defensive life that he or she is going to be living because he was terribly abused. He's been traumatized. Now, when you don't have this kind of God kind of love that is so sacrificial that it looks for you even when you're missing in action, then when you get into what will have been a marriage relationship that will be lifelong, the moment the person misses it, you give up on the person. Why? Because you don't know what is sacrificial love. And that is what makes marriage beautiful. That's what makes erotic love beautiful. So, the last kind of love is erotic love. It is the kind of love that God designed that every human will enter into after they have enjoyed the family love, enjoyed love from friends, and then enjoyed the God kind of love that will now help them to enter into an attachment, connection, deep love attachment with a person. When you get into that deep love attachment with the person, you are not getting in broken, you are getting in sacrificial. You're ready to take care of the person's welfare. You're not looking at your advantage all the time. You're not looking at what you want and what you don't want. You're not looking at how it is with you. Every time it's about me, myself, and I. No, you're thinking about the well being of that person. So, a failure to experience this kind of love that we have listed out here, the right time, in the right proportion, leaves a gap or a void in the person's emotional life. Please hear me. This leads to a desperate and unconscious search for love. A desperate and unconscious search for validation. That love that is missing, the person is looking for it. Is wanting to be loved. Is wanting to be told that he's loved. And he's always looking for it in another person. And at that point, what he's doing is that he's giving the person the right to break his heart. Because in actual fact, no other person ought to have access to your heart and that measure except God. So you see, it is difficult for people to do without emotional attachment because people have gone through different stages of terrible love experiences. However, however, it, in the beginning, God did not design you and I to function like that. You were not designed to be attached to people. You were designed to be connected with people. Please hear me. On the final note, everyone who is emotionally attached at this point, you need to take a step back and look at your life again. You have outsourced your joy. You have outsourced your peace. You have outsourced your happiness. You have given another person the right to do with your heart whatsoever that person's wills. You don't deserve to have that kind of experience. Please, it's time to look at your life again and take back your life and go back to God. There is only one person, and I read that scripture and I close. Jeremiah 31, 33, verse 3. Jeremiah 31, verse 3. It says, and I quote, "The Lord has appeared of old to me, saying, Yes, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness I have drawn you." There is only one person that can love you with an everlasting love. That person is God. It's not your friend. It's not your brother. It's not your sister. It's not your parents. You will leave your parents and go looking for other. You will leave your wife someday and die. Sometimes people even leave their husbands and wives and look for some other persons in the name of divorce. But it's only God that said He has loved you with an everlasting love. And He's calling you and I to come and enjoy this love with which He has loved us. Everlasting love. And that's only if you will open up to Him and say, Yes, Lord, to your will, to your ways, and fall in love with Him. And that's what He's calling you. Brother, you don't let your heart be broken by another. Sister, don't let another shatter your heart. No. Don't give another person the right to toy with your heart. He's calling you. He's calling me. And all you need to do is to come to Him and experience agape love. Experience agape. Adam failed it, but because God loved Adam, God looked for Adam. Even when Adam was hiding, He was still looking for him. He was calling out his name. That's sacrificial love. It's not a love that someone receives when it's prim and proper. It's a love that gets even bigger and brighter and more intense when someone misses it. How do I know? The Bible says in the book of Romans, chapter number 5, and verse number 8, it says that while we were yet sinners, it wasn't as though we did anything good to deserve God's love. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for them. So He was loving you and I, and loving you and I. When we were good, He was loving us. And then when we sinned against Him, that He should abandon us, He went the extra mile to give His life. That is agape. When you experience it, you will not be in a hurry to give up on any person who misses it. Why? Because you have tasted it, and because you know what it feels like, you are able to give it. I pray for you today that you will receive peace to escape the deception of the world that defines love as attachment. And so a young boy is growing up, he's looking for a bestie, he's looking for a girlfriend, or she's looking for a boyfriend, and you get attached. And you're doing everything to own the person, to possess the person. And then one day the person comes and tells you a story after using you, and the person dumps you just like a piece of tissue paper. That's not your desire. That's not what God planned for you. I pray that you will receive grace to escape this deception of the enemy. I pray that you will receive grace to understand who God has called you to be. I pray that you will receive grace to experience in the right dose and proportion all of these dimensions of love that God has prepared for you. And as you experience it, that you will live a balanced, emotional life that will bring honor and praise to Jehovah. In Jesus' name, amen. Once again, my name is Brother Ike, your host on this platform, Service Life. And I want to say thank you for the time you spent with us. Um, Please, because of time, I will ask that you drop your questions on the platform. I'll look at the questions, and by the grace of God, by the next episode of Singles Alive, I'll be able to answer your questions as God gives us grace. I appeal to you to please like, drop a comment, and share your thought or a question with us. We'll be very glad to receive these questions and attend to these questions. Please, we really appreciate you and your connection. I've seen certain questions. Maybe the question is not why we get attacked, but who we are attaching to. And I think people get attacked because they harvest their time, or they invest their time to just one person. So I think, in as much as we need community, there should be boundaries, because if your emotional needs are on one friend, you're likely to get emotionally attacked. Very true. Very true. Very true. Well, I'm going to take time to look at all of the comments and all of the questions. Please, if there are questions, feel free to drop it, and it will be a pleasure to come back to it and um, and attend to them. And I want to also use this opportunity to tell us that Truth Beyond Religion, that is supposed to be coming up tomorrow, will not be coming up anymore because of a couple of engagements, ministerial engagements, that is going to be taking me off. So it will be until, I think, August the 6th. Please make well to connect so that we can continually live the life that God has called us to live. And until I come your way on Singles Alive, same platform, the second week in the month of August, remain in God's atmosphere of love.